Okay, so today we're going to be looking at some Ari, and we're going to be looking at who and where this person is, and we're going to be thinking about how this person relates to a specific religion which we've not yet looked at. So I want you to have a quick think. Can you name the main religions of the world? Think about what you have done in previous years, which religions have you looked at, and have a think of those. I'm going to give you, if you can pause the video now, write down as many as you can remember, and then as soon as you have wrote all of those down, press play and let's see if you've got the same ones. Okay, let's have a look then. So there's Christianity, Judaism, Hinduism, Buddhism and Islam. So these are the main ones, and we're going to be now looking at Sikhism. Okay, so this is one we haven't looked at yet, but we are going to be moving forward onto this. Okay, so we're going to look at who founded Sikhism and where this was found. Now, if you have a look at the bottom, you can see the timeline of when this happened. So obviously Christianity started as AD 1 because it was after the death of Jesus Christ. So obviously Christianity is all surrounded by the beliefs of Jesus Christ and God, and so obviously we can see from looking at Christianity where the other religions sit. So obviously we can see Buddhism was just before Christianity, and Judaism was even further back. It was obviously 1500 to 1350 before Christ, and obviously Hinduism was 2000 BC before Christ as well. Then if we have a look, after Christianity was founded, Islam was just founded shortly after that, and then obviously we can see that Sikhism was found a little bit further ahead, so closer to today, which is the one we're going to look at now. Now Sikhism was founded by this gentleman here. He was called Guru Nanak, and it was in the 15th century, and he was from India. Okay, so we're going to look at who Guru Nanak was and how actually was Sikhism founded. So Guru Nanak, okay, he was the first Sikh guru that we know of. Okay, and he came from a small town in India about 500 years ago. So Sikhism has been around for about 500 years now, and it was all because of this gentleman who was Guru Nanak. And because of Guru Nanak, we now have lots of traditions and beliefs that have been brought through that are used today within the religion of Sikhism, and we're going to be looking at the story of how actually he founded it and his early life to becoming the first Sikh guru. So we're going to look at his childhood first and how what his childhood was, to really understand how he really thought about how he could bring about this new religion of Sikhism. So Guru Nanak was born into a Hindu family, and this was in a little village where both people who were religions of Hinduism and Islam, so like Muslims, that's where they were all in the same village as well. So there were obviously different religions already in the village. And what he did as a child, he went to school and he learned lots of different, just as we do in schools, he learned about maths, he studied sacred texts in what would be their literacy, and also learned the Sanskrit language, which was currently spoken in India during this time. Whilst he was at a young age, he also attended a local madrasa, which was like an educational institution where he was able to learn different languages and such as Persian, Arabic, and as well as reading the Islamic literature at the same time. So from a child, just like we have today, he had that educational aspect where he learnt all about not just maths and literacy like we do at school, but also learnt about different religions and the literature behind it as well. So growing up, so obviously from a young age he always thought about God, and everyone thought that he was dreaming and was always thinking about who God was, what God represented. When he was younger, his father gave him some money and said, go to the city and go and buy some food. However, when he went to the city, he saw some monks that looked pale and ill, and he thought, oh gosh, they look really hungry. So what he did was he bought some food for them and took it back to them. Now, because of this, his father was really angry at the fact that he'd done this and he'd not brought back what the father had asked for him. So he said to his sister, his sister said, come and live with me and my husband. And so that's what Nanak did. He left his father's home and he went and lived with his sister and his sister's husband. When he lived with his sister, he got a job as a shopkeeper, and this was his first job. And here he would also often explain his ideas about how to love and follow God to people who gathered in the village or who came into the shop. And some began to call him a guru. Now this means, guru just means teacher. So everybody believed that he was teaching them through his the gatherings that he did, and so they started to call him guru, and that's obviously where the name started, Guru Nanak, came from, because everyone believed and looked up to him as a teacher who was teaching them a lot about loving each other and about God. Now one day, when Nanak was 28, he went down to the river and to bathe and to say his prayers, but he disappeared and no one knew where he was, but all was left were his clothes. Now the villagers searched everywhere for him, but unfortunately they couldn't find him, and so they all assumed that he had died. However, this necessarily wasn't the case. 3 days later, Nanak appeared, and he didn't speak for the whole of that day. However, when he did speak, he told them that he'd been with God and that he had been told to tell the people how they could also become closer to God. He said that all people were equal in God's eyes, that there is nobody that is better than each other, everybody is equal, and that there is only God's path, and he shall be following God's path. So he now went and told everybody about this message and told them about everybody being equal and everybody loving each other as equals. So from this point, he treated all people, regardless of which religion they followed, whether they were Hindus or Muslims, he treated them all the same. He treated them as if they didn't belong to, and he treated them the same, even though he didn't necessarily follow their religion. He treated them as equals. From this, he then travelled around different parts of India, learning and teaching all about God's message. So again, that the word guru, teaching, he obviously travelled around and taught other people about this message, about loving each other and treating each other as equals. And this is where the word Sikhs comes from, because the word Sikh means learner. So Sikhism came about because the Guru Nanak would go around and teach them all about what God's words were, what God's wish was, and so everybody that learnt from him were classed as Sikhs, and this is where how Sikhism was founded, because they were learning from Guru Nanak the teachings and the words that God obviously had told him. And so this is why he came Guru Nanak, and everybody obviously understood and listened to him and the words that he had to say. Okay, so moving on from this point, so obviously this is where we started, but what then Guru Nanak then did is he spent the next 20 years of his life making 4 long journeys around India and sharing his messages for people to listen to. And he finally settled in a little village called Kartarpur, which you can see on the map here, so just on the banks of the river, where people would then come to him and gather and pray together. And his teachings of how everybody was equal, everybody was loved, was really shown by the fact that on an evening everybody would come together, eat together, and it didn't matter whether you were rich or whether you were poor, everybody came together as equals to be together at that time. From then, just before, so one day near the end of his life, Guru Nanak called a disciple to him, and he placed 5 coins and a coconut in front of him, as these were a symbol of respect. And he said to him, from today you are the Guru of the Sikhs, and I name you Angad, meaning a part of the body. And the people were amazed by this, and they were told to follow him. And so he was the next guru, and that really led the Sikhs to understand and continue to believe in those messages from God. So obviously this all happened. And then after, unfortunately, Guru Nanak did obviously pass away, but after his death, the Muslim and the Hindu people argued about who should arrange the funeral, as they had different beliefs in what they should be doing when somebody dies. So the Hindus wanted him cremated, whereas the Muslims wanted him to be buried. So they had different opinions. Now this led to a lot of arguments between them, as they all wanted to be part of the funeral service. At that point, a wise man appeared and told them to look under the sheet in which Guru Nanak was laying under. However, when they lifted the sheet, they discovered that the body was no longer there. Guru Nanak wasn't there anymore. There were just beautiful flowers laid under the sheet. And because of this, they realised that actually this was a sign from Guru Nanak to say that please don't argue, let's all be friends, remember we're all equals, and the flowers were therefore a symbol to say for everybody to come together. So what they did do is they split the sheet into two halves, so that the Hindus could cremate the half that was theirs, and the Muslims could bury the half that was theirs as well, so that obviously the arguing had stopped, everybody had come together from the sign of the flowers being underneath the sheet. Now, obviously we've talked a lot about who Guru Nanak was, so if you need to go back and look at the slides, or if you need to go back and listen to myself telling the story again, then obviously please do. So what I'd like you to do now is I've put these on Seesaw for you to see, so to go and use these clues to retell the story of Guru Nanak, about who he was, his childhood, growing up, to the point where he founded Sikhism and shared those messages with everybody else. Now there are some clues on here as well on Seesaw, so please do use those to really explain your work. Also, if you can put some lovely pictures on to describe each event, that would be even better. So I look forward to seeing these on Seesaw.